This time I'll call the July the 9th council meeting to order. Welcome all of our guests. This is the first meeting that we've had open to the public in several months because of the pandemic, and we welcome everyone. I ask you to join us in a moment of reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Wesley Boland.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is to consider the minutes of the June 25th, 2020 council meeting.
So move.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. Under the mayor's report tonight, I have some other reports that I've asked folks to update us on. First of all, I've asked Mr. Palagrudo to give you and the public an update on our new fire station project. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I guess probably be best to start off in the past and then go to where we are now and then where we expect to be. So best place to probably start would be January of this year, when we found out that we had been awarded the $500,000 grant from the state of Kentucky. And soon thereafter, Mayor Rogers gave me the direction to go ahead and meet with the architect and design a new facility that mirrored the station that we had built 5 years ago. So that took from January to pretty much up to a few weeks ago. And during that time, there was 2 or 3 in-person visits, as well as many phone calls with the architect. And flash forward to yesterday, we were ready to go out, put it out to bid. And one of the challenges during that time, of course, was the dealing with the COVID. That didn't make things easy, but nonetheless, that we were able to work through it. The other thing that we wanted to make sure we complied with were the terms of the grant. And Marissa Stewart spent quite a bit of time making sure that we fulfilled those requirements, and all that culminated us to be ready to put it out to bid, which we did yesterday. That bid will stay out, be open for contractors to bid until August 6th, when they will be due. And then at that time, I would expect shortly thereafter, those contractors who bid on the project will be brought before this body, and hopefully you all will be able to award the contract whomever you all see fit. We expect construction to take a little less than a year. Obviously, there's a bit of unknown with that. Regarding the what type of bids we are going to receive, we asked the architect about that, and he really does not know what type of response we are going to have as far as the number of bidders, and probably more importantly, what the bid is going to come out to, dollar amount. He's hopeful, but he is stressed that he just doesn't know. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. With that, I guess I'll close just by saying, as always, the fire department appreciates the support of the mayor and this council, and we are looking forward to getting into the new facility and continue serving the citizens of Murray. If there's any questions, I can try to answer for you. I'll be glad to try.
Anyone have a question of Chief Palagruto?
Chief, in general, costs have been low because of the slower economy. I know that that was true in our paving bids that we got. You no optimism at all that that might help lower some of the cost of construction?
No, I didn't. Actually, completely opposite to that. I think there is optimism for that. But I think the architect just, what he's seen, there's just so much uncertainty with the economy, raw materials, and I guess to some extent labor. He doesn't want to say, yes, you guys are going to get an absolute great price on this, but he is hopeful.
Okay.
And that's where kind of it was left. So,
thank you.
Chief, did you have any issues over the 4th of July with any fires or anything?
no, we didn't. Everything was, as far as fires go, there was no problems that I can recall, typical calls, but nothing related to fireworks specifically.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Kutcher is going to give us an update on public work projects.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Good evening. It's been a while. There we go. All right, we'll start off with the Bee Creek wastewater treatment plant. You can see that we have our new sign up at the facility along with a light on it and stuff. Here's the overview that we typically show for the plant, and you can see that all the tanks in green are in service or available for service, and most of the construction is now focused on the interchange tank in yellow. And of course, there's still a lot of site work, drainage and seeding and things like that that are going on around the rest of the facility. Off to the right, you can see the Headworks building. You see some final grading going on, and to the right side there, the oxidation ditches. You can see that some of the grass is starting to come up with all the rain we've had in the past couple weeks. That's been a help. Our new secondary clarifiers on the right-hand side, doing a great job. And the concrete structure in the front or the middle of the left-hand side, that's our raw sewage or our return activated sludge pumping station. You can also see there that there's sidewalks in the background, and they put the first coat of paving down on the plant, so we're not dealing with mud anymore, and just waiting for all the grading to get done before they come out and do the final paving on the site. And then off in the distance, we have our effluent structure, and on the right-hand side, that's our clean effluent water that runs down to Bee Creek. As it falls down those stairs, oxygen is added to the water, so it has plenty of oxygen in the water for the aquatic fish and organisms in the stream. Change order number 6 involved, that was the last change order we did on this project. It involved the interchange tank. It was a large 122-foot square tank that was hard to keep mixed and useful for us, so we're dividing it into 4 quadrants, and you see all the walls are done. A lot of the piping has been installed and piped up in that, so they say they'll probably be done with the physical part of the work on this tank by the end of July. And then the electrical contractor said that he should have all the electricity and all the programming and all that stuff finished by mid to late August. So that'll be the last piece of the project out at the wastewater plant. Here's the projected and actual cost of the project on a monthly basis. And the green bars are annual bars, so we're now approaching our 5th year of being under construction out there, but we're also coming to an end on it. So it's been a long time and lots of headaches, but we're getting through it. Any questions on the facility? Yes, ma'am.
Well, and from looking at this graph, you're still on track to be slightly under budget. Is that correct?
Oh, we'll hit the budget number.
Okay. I was hoping.
The difference is a lot of it is retainage. We hold 10% of their funds to make sure that everything gets done correctly. So in the end, they'll get their money.
Mr. Mayor, when will we, this may not be a question for you, maybe for Kim or Major Osborne. When do we start paying the principal? I know we've been paying the interest. I mean, I think it was supposed to be 99% or something complete. Would we assume that we'll start at some point in the fall?
It's six months after we are finally done. So right now, whether it would be in December becomes a little questionable, but certainly by next June. Thought I saw Kim.
Kim was here, but anyway, so it'd be 6
Anyways.
months after it's complete.
Yes.
And then the KIA loan starts.
That's when you have to make your first
Okay.
payment of principal. Yeah.
Other question? Comments? Thank you, sir.
Okay, then we have the water plant. I'm sorry, I got a couple more. I'll try to go fast. The water plant, you see this project is complete. The first seeding didn't do so well, so they'll probably come back and do another one in the fall. The building there on the left is our new high service pump station, so that takes our finished water and transports it up to the tanks around the city so everybody has water and water pressure. That was a prefabricated building, which saved us a lot of cost. Pretty much they poured the slab when they got to that point. They brought this structure in on a 100-foot long trailer, which was a challenge to get through town, but Murray Electric helped us get past all the wires and that. And then they basically had a big 450-ton crane out there that lifted this up and set it in place, bolted it down, and dropped the pumps in. It was already pre-wired, so it was a pretty simple operation. We were done with the project. Everything was backfilled, graded, seeded, and there was a valve that was missing. It showed up at the contractor's yard. Of course, it's a large valve. It's a 36-inch diameter valve, and so the president of the company said, "What is this valve doing here, and where did it come from?" And he checked all the POs and found out it came from Murray, Kentucky. So we started looking through photos, and sure enough, there was supposed to be a valve where that arrow is showing. Now this is about 20 foot below grade. That black wall in the background is the insulation that's on the nuclear well, so we had to put in a 10-foot by 10-foot shoring around this area very carefully, excavate all this out of this 10 by 10 area, expose all that piping, take it apart, insert the valve, and then put the piping back together. The one thing that we learned when we were doing this was that on the left-hand side you have a T, and down at the bottom on the right-hand side you have a cross member. And when we got it all exposed, we found out that those two pipes were 4 inches offset instead of being lined up. So that made it a real challenge trying to get these pipes back together, but we ended up doing it. So.
Did that cost the city anything to do that?
That did not cost the city a dime. That was the contractor's problem, so everything was on his nickel. And they did a great job. And that project is 99.8% complete. We're waiting for one level sensor that goes into that well so we can tell, so we know how deep the water in the well is, because it's buried 2 feet below the ground in that. So once that comes in, we'll be complete with the project. Any questions on the water plant? Okay, I'll move on to the East Fork Pump Station. This project has moved along quite a bit from the many years of all the issues out there. We tested the pumps last week. They all passed. They now have a bunch of site work to do to get ready for the paving of the roadways and stuff, so we can put the station in service. Oops. They do have to do a bypass pumping they're going to do next week. There's one valve vault outside the structure that at the time when it was built, the valve was not on site. And then we had to put the structure into service, and that the old part of the structure back into service. So at this point, now that the new pumps are ready, they have to bypass around the structure in order to get into that one chamber to install that valve and do some grouting in there and stuff. So that'll get done next week. And I don't have all the financials on this from Marissa, but this project's moving along, and looks like we're still going to save somewhere around $100,000 on this project. So that's going well.
When did you say the pumps, the water plant would be finished? Is it finished?
The water plant's finished, yeah. It's been online for, my gosh, quite a while.
Pump station, how long? Where's it been?
I would say it'll be done by the end of August, probably. And that's all I got.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Back before the pandemic hit us and we had to stop meeting together, several of you mentioned to me that you had received a letter from the PVA's office concerning a fee that's going to be on the property tax bill. And you said that you had been receiving several questions about that. And since we haven't been together to discuss it, it hasn't been mentioned, but we're together tonight. And I've asked our attorney, Mr. Hopkins, to come and just to tell you exactly what that was about.
Thank you, Mayor. Most of you probably received this letter from our PVA officer indicating that there's going to be a $30 per unit charge on your tax bill, and that represents the county's ordinance fee now for their 911 service. But what's interesting is we have a separate 911 service for the city. This also attaches to the city residents in addition to the county residents. So effectively, the city now is paying a 911 fee on phone bill the way we collect it, and that's used for our 911 system. And now the county is adding this to our property tax bill. So I know if y'all had any questions, if you wanted to know or answer questions from your constituents, that's the effect of what this does. And to a certain degree, this may be considered, overkill, but they have their service and we have our service. And some people have even mentioned the fact that they thought it was double taxation. Well, actually it's not, because it's not from the same entity. But then again, it's also not on the same mechanism or manner of collection either. But there are some concerns, and I think a lot of residents have expressed those to you, and some are even wanting to further pursue trying to request from the fiscal court to exempt the city citizens from this tax. And I believe, from what I can tell so far, they could do that. They've already identified through a mutual agreement with the mayor and the city where the boundaries are for 911. And we've got that document that's been signed some time back. And I don't know why we could not take that document and say, okay, exempt the city, we'll take care of our own 911 service. But they're claiming that there's some crossover and need for these fees and things like that. So to this point, that's what I know about it. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer some for you.
Open the floor for questions or discussion.
So as far as you know, Warren, there's no litigation against the county?
None that I'm aware of.
I've seen where some counties have gotten grants to put these 911 services in their counties, but I was surprised that Callaway didn't get one of those out. I was thinking that's the reason they put it in, is they could get a big grant for that, but evidently they didn't, is that correct?
I'm not familiar with what grant they've applied for. I'm not sure if that's the case, but
They
you
just
could be.
announced several counties in the purchase region that received grants.
Yeah.
When is this gonna take effect?
It's going to take effect on our next taxing schedule, which will come out in October. Yes, ma'am.
What is the cost to a city resident for the city 911 services? About $15 a year?
I'm not familiar with that. Jim, do you know?
$1 a month on a landline. And so do we know how the county arrived at their figure of $30
No,
per
ma'am.
unit?
Do not know.
Okay.
I believe there is a 70 cent per line also on the cell phone in the city, or everywhere.
70 cents per year cell phone.
70 cents per month, I believe. Is that right? Yeah.
So around about $20 to city residents now, and that's coming out of our landlines and or cell phones, depending on what we've got.
Right,
Correct.
If you have both, it'd be about $20.
probably so.
So if I call 911 right from here, who's gonna get the call?
If you're in the city, it should be the city 911 receiver operator for that. Some of the questions that we've had is, if you are a city resident and you have a city phone, a cell phone, and you go just outside the city limits, there's some question whether or not it goes to the county or not. And that's where their basic argument is that it, more likely than not, will go to a county service and still be utilizing you to help you in the county. And that's how they're justifying some of this, I think.
But if we're traveling and I'm in Louisville and have an emergency and call 911, who takes care of me there?
Good question. State police or the city of Louisville, whatever entity is
But
closest.
Jefferson County would handle that.
Very
at
possible.
no fee to me.
That's what I understand, yes.
So what does the city plan on doing with this? Is we gonna let this
Well, I
ride?
don't know that we can do anything other than send a request or resolution, maybe requesting that they realign the boundary for this and exempt the city residents, if that's something you are considering or want to do.
Well, I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of people complain to us about double taxation, and I can see it. What are we gonna tell them? Exactly what he just said.
Going to request they realign the tax and exempt us.
Have we requested that?
No, we have not. We were going to talk about it first to see what the council wanted to do.
What I'm getting at.
Well, if you need a motion, I think we need, as a beginning point, now, Mr. Mayor, you may feel differently, but we need a resolution, I guess, to request the county to, how would you want me to phrase, rescind the, 911 fee or exempt city residents from the 911 fee? And then, and I don't think they're gonna do it, and then we're gonna need to, in the meantime, I guess, consider whether to sue them or not to prevent them from doing it.
Well,
How would you like to proceed?
I think what you're doing is you're expressing concerns on behalf of the citizens of Murray, who you represent.
Yes, sir.
And your concern is that fees being charged to them for services not rendered. And Mr. Hopkins has said that if it be your wishes, you could send a resolution or some type of correspondence requesting that they amend their ordinance and exempt the citizens who are served by the Murray 911. Is that
That's correct, Your Honor.
okay?
Or Mayor, Your Honor.
Dan puts that
Because
in motion, I'll second.
Okay. Dr. Miller made the motion. Dr. Young seconded the motion. Discussion on the motion.
Uh,
Do we have any information?
I don't know that I have any information on that. I'm not so sure, but Wapaducah doesn't have a similar situation. But I haven't verified that, I don't know, so we'll see. I can check on that, though.
Anyone else? All in favor, did everybody understand the motion? All in favor of the motion to have our attorney draw up this resolution or some type of correspondence making that request of the county? All in favor of that, please say aye.
Aye.
If they're opposed, please say no. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're now ready to consider the second reading of ordinance number 2020-1797. I'll ask the clerk to read that ordinance.
Ordinance number 2020-1797, second reading, an ordinance enacting and adopting a supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Murray, Kentucky.
Thank you. Mr. Osborne, any clarification on that you'd like to share?
This is what we typically do several times a year with Amway. We codify our ordinances that you pass since we last had a codification. So simply going to get them online on our website.
I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second?
Have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2020-1797. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please have a roll call vote. I caught myself that time. Danetta's on vacation.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Boland?
Yes.
Ms. Cherry?
Yes.
Ms. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Hudspeth?
Yes.
Mr. McChristian?
Yes.
Dr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Robert?
Yes.
Ms. Rouse? Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Dr. Streeter?
Yes.
Dr. Young?
Yes.
Thank you, and the ordinance is passed. Now we'll consider the second reading of ordinance number 2020-1798. Please read that ordinance.
Ordinance number 2020-1798, second reading. An ordinance amending City of Murray Code of Ordinances, Chapter 91, cemeteries, specifically Section 91.01, Section 91.03, Section 91.04, Section 91.07, Section 91.09, Section 91.11, Section 91.12, in order to update and clarify language contained in this chapter.
Thank you. Mr. Osborne, any brief comments on that?
Yes, sir. As we talked about in the last, or first reading, this simply makes some changes to the cemetery. We've fallen pretty far behind on our pricing. There's a lot of upkeep out there. And it also gives the mayor the opportunity to allow some people to be buried there that under our current ordinance, we were kind of handcuffed and could go on like a great grandchild or something to that effect. But I'll be glad to take any questions if you may have.
Let's have a motion.
So move.
Got a motion and a second. Now, any questions or discussion? One point I want to emphasize that if this ordinance passes, it goes into effect November 1. November 1. So if anyone wanted to purchase lots in the cemetery or anything pertaining to this ordinance, the current prices will be in effect until November 1, and then the new prices would take effect, okay? So, any questions? All in favor, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Boland?
Yes.
Ms. Cherry?
Yes.
Ms. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Hudspeth?
Yes.
Mr. McChristian?
Yes.
Dr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Robert?
Yes.
Ms. Rouse? Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Dr. Streeter?
Yes.
Dr. Young?
Yes.
And the ordinance is passed. The next item on the agenda is a consent agenda, unless there's any of those you'd like to pull out and be voted on. We had a lot of terms expiring on our boards and commissions this time, and all of these are reappointments. all of these are people who are now serving, have been dedicated and are willing to serve again if being reappointed. And it's my recommendation that we show our appreciation to them for their service and reappoint them to the committee. Is there anyone you'd like to pull out and discuss? If not, we'll vote on them all in the consent agenda.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you gotten confirmation from these people that they will be happy to continue?
Yes, ma'am.
serving? Okay.
Motion made in the second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Just so you'll know, we do contact each of the administrators of the programs, make sure attendance was, and then we contact the people to see if they are interested in being reappointed. Okay? All in favor of this motion to approve the consent agenda and these reappointments, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no, and the motion passes, and the consent agenda is approved. We've received information recently which will necessitate us going into executive session to discuss pending litigation or existing litigation.
May I ask a question before we do that? Just one question?
Yes, you may.
Have you heard any response from the county about the resolution that we passed last meeting regarding the
No, I
statute?
haven't.
Nothing,
Nothing.
okay.
They haven't met, well, they did have one special meeting, I think, but it was not on that agenda. So, no, I haven't heard anything.
I would move we go into executive sessions for the reason to discuss pending litigation on behalf of the city.
Second.
Motion and a second, go enter executive session. I will inform everyone that there will be no action taken when we return, but you are welcome to stay. So we'll reconvene upstairs in executive session.
Oh.